Imagine holding a coin in your hand. It is silver. It has weight. It has the face of the emperor on one side and an eagle on the other. Every merchant in the known world will accept it. Every soldier expects to be paid in it. Every tax, every trade route, every border crossing runs through it. That coin is the Roman denarius. And for nearly 300 years, it is the closest thing the ancient world has to a global reserve currency. Now imagine that same coin 2 centuries later. It looks the same. The face has changed, the emperor is different, but the coin feels familiar. You take it to a merchant. He holds it, turns it over, and something in his expression shifts. Because the coin in your hand is no longer silver. It is bronze, coated in a thin layer of silver wash that has already begun to flake at the edges. Nobody announced this. Nobody declared it. It simply happened, slowly, deliberately, and with the full knowledge of the Roman state. The Roman Empire at its height was an extraordinary economic machine. It controlled trade from Britain to Mesopotamia. Its legions were expensive but effective. Its infrastructure, roads, aqueducts, grain shipments, required constant, enormous funding. And for a long time, the silver flowing from Spanish and Macedonian mines was enough to sustain it. But wars have a way of outrunning revenue. By the early 3rd century, the empire was fighting on multiple fronts simultaneously. The Persian Sassanid Empire was pressing from the east. Germanic tribes were breaching the Rhine and Danube. Political instability meant emperors rose and fell within months, each one buying loyalty from the legions with promises of higher pay. The treasury could not keep up. So Rome did what governments throughout history have done when they need more money than they have. It created the illusion of money it did not possess. The process was methodical. Under Emperor Nero, the silver content of the denarius was reduced from nearly pure silver to roughly 90%, a small cut, almost invisible. Then, under successive emperors, the reduction continued, 80%, 70, 60. By the reign of Gallienus in the mid-3rd century, the denarius contained less than 5% silver. It was, in every practical sense, a bronze coin with a deceptive surface. This process has a name, debasement, and its mechanics are straightforward. By melting down old coins and mixing in cheaper metals, the state could produce more coins from the same quantity of silver. More coins meant more soldiers paid, more contracts honored, more political crises temporarily resolved. The money supply expanded without any real wealth behind it. But the people who used these coins were not ignorant. Merchants began raising prices to compensate for the falling value of the currency. Soldiers, paid in debased coin, demanded larger quantities of it. Landowners and traders began hoarding older, higher silver coins and refusing the new ones. Trade slowed. Supply chains fractured. The informal economy that held the empire together began to retreat into local barter and payment in kind. What followed is known to historians as the crisis of the 3rd century, a 50-year period in which Rome experienced runaway inflation, political fragmentation, plagues, and near total economic collapse. Over 20 emperors ruled and died in that period. Several provinces briefly broke away entirely. The centralized financial system that had once made Roman power possible became a source of paralysis. The consequence was not simply economic. When the currency failed, trust failed with it. The relationship between the Roman state and its subjects, built on the implicit promise that the coin in your hand was worth what it claimed to be, was broken. And once that trust was gone, the social contracts that held provinces loyal, that kept merchants willing to trade across long distances, that made taxation legitimate in the eyes of those being taxed, began to dissolve. Later emperors attempted reforms. Diocletian issued the edict on maximum prices in 301 AD, trying to cap inflation by law. It failed almost immediately. Constantine introduced the gold solidus, a stable and reliable coin that briefly restored confidence, but it was expensive, scarce, and ultimately accessible only to the wealthy. The ordinary economy never fully recovered. There is something worth sitting with here. The Roman denarius did not collapse overnight. It took 200 years of incremental decisions, each one rational in isolation, each one justifiable by the urgency of the moment, to reduce the most trusted currency in the ancient world to a coin that no one wanted to hold. The lesson embedded in that history is uncomfortable, because the mechanism Rome used is not unique to Rome. The logic of creating money to meet obligations that cannot otherwise be met is as old as the state itself. What changes is the technology, the terminology, and the scale. What does not change is the ending. When people lose faith in the value of what they are holding, they stop holding it. And when enough of them stop at once, the system built on that faith does not bend. It breaks. Rome did not announce its own decline. It continued minting coins, paying soldiers, building monuments. The surface remained intact long after the substance beneath it had been replaced. That is perhaps the most haunting part of this story. Not the collapse itself, but how long the appearance of stability outlasted the reality of it.